And inferential feedback can come only from a storage of information. Verse number 31. Without prior experience, there is no inference. This is not previously perceived with the eye. Therefore, know that the existence of that in which all qualities inhere is not known by inference. Commentary. Now we come to 3 verses which provide a methodology to assist us in our search for truth. There are 3 fundamental questions we can ask about the world in which we find ourselves. The first is, what is matter? Furthermore, how does it originate and how does it function? We see things which we consider to be concrete and existing outside of us. They are part of our experience and can be seen, touched, heard, tasted, and smelled. Certainly they must have originated at some point. Where and when was that? And what really is the substance we call matter? How can things as different as air and earth be included under this one category? How can matter include both the living and the inanimate in its purview? The second fundamental question is, what is life? How does it originate? How do you distinguish between a biologic factor and an inanimate object? In other words, what particular quality in matter causes it to live? How does life evolve? What laws are operating? And where is it taking us? Do evolutionary processes move according to special laws in order to achieve anything? Are they purposive? Does the world go by itself, or is it guided by something else? The third main question is, what is consciousness? How does it originate? And how is it different from life itself? What is the extent of consciousness? How deep is it? And how far can it be stretched? What are its foundations? Naturally, the additional consideration arises of what is not consciousness. The entire gamut of psychology comes under the question of what is consciousness. All of biology comes under what is life, and the entire world of physics and chemistry comes under the consideration of what is matter. These 3 questions lead us to make ongoing probes into the nature of our universe. A 4th question comes as a natural corollary. What do you want to find out? If it is truth, how do you discern it? You set out to find some great truth. Are you sufficiently familiar with truth to know it when you come face to face with it? You see many things in your dreams which seem to exist, but when you wake up, they are no longer there. What you experience in the wakeful state is not present in your dreams either. So how do you know which of these is true? Take an orange, for example. How do we know an orange is an orange? What really exists? What is the truth of it? We see a spherical shape, orange coloring, and a kind of skin on the outside. When we peel it, the inner contents are juicy. It has a particular smell and taste. We can analyze the orange into its many constituent properties. These are called dharmas. If we take it for granted these properties exist, only one thing will still be missing, the orange. Our analysis has only come across shape, taste, color, touch, and smell. We do not experience the orange when we touch it. We are only experiencing touch, or we are experiencing color and shape. Then, where is the orange? It is only a composition we have made in our minds out of all its properties. Thus, we have a synthetic understanding which integrates many divergent factors. If we go further into the constituents of a thing, they are synthesized of still more basic properties. So, what you see is not what is inherent in a substance, but only what is inferred about it. The need for a proper methodology to arrive at fundamental truths was demonstrated very early on by philosophers like Parmenides and Zeno. Zeno is famous for his paradoxes that illustrate the limitations of our reasoning by showing how mathematical logic can sometimes contradict perceptions or common sense. In Western philosophy, there was a great struggle over proper methodology up to the time of Descartes. He decided that philosophy would never be scientific and stand on its own unless a proper methodology could be developed. All credit goes to Descartes for laying the groundwork in this effort. But even the Cartesian methodology was not complete in itself. Afterwards, Immanuel Kant added a critique of pure reason and a critique of practical reason. He thought a theory should be feasible, acceptable to the mind, operative at a transactional level, and practical. There should always be applied knowledge alongside pure theoretical knowledge. The pure aspect is postulation. Applied science is performing something on the basis of that truth. Only when you have a proof, only when you see it with your own eyes, does information become convincing. In a physics class, for instance, a certain postulate expressing a natural law can be given by the teacher in the morning. Then, in the afternoon class, the instructor should show how it can be applied. In this verse, Narayana Guru is saying that in order to really know Brahman, the Absolute, you have to experience it at least once. It should be as real as a berry in the palm of your hand. Only if you experience it can you truly be a knower of the Absolute. In the previous verse, we were given a very sweeping vision that inert matter has no knowledge and pure knowledge does not cogitate or articulate. We are caught midway between two absolute forms of silence, the silence of inert matter and the silence of that unknown, inaccessible reality. Both of these lie behind closed doors, so to speak. In between them is a twilight region in which we are living, moving around, making observations, yelling, shouting, and carrying on. This the Guru has already discredited as non-knowledge. There have always been disputes going on among people who are steeped in ignorance. And what is their method? They use inferences. Nothing is fully known to them. They see only a little bit and then assume the rest. Pedagogues in our university classes, schools, churches, and other institutions rant and rave solely on the basis of the blatant assumptions of their pre-selected inferences. All that we notice here is only partial, the rest we imagine. Even when we think we have fully observed, we have only half observed. Our imagination, fueled by our prejudices and predilections, fills in the gaps. Is this kind of methodology useful for knowing the Absolute? Narayana Guru says no, you have to truly experience a thing in order to know it, and what you are here trying to discern does not come under that category. It is not a dharma, a property which sustains a thing as it is. Rather, it is that which contains all properties, dharmi. To arrive at the Absolute is a very frustrating challenge. All the pride of our understanding and learning must be taken away from us. To get over this hurdle, Kant brought in the idea of the main division between knowledge which is a priori and knowledge which is a posteriori. A priori knowledge is what is prior to your experience, while a posteriori knowledge comes after your experience. How does one get a priori knowledge? The Guru is going to tell us after a couple of more verses. At this point, he just wants us to know that whatever knowledge we have gained so far is relativistic understanding, which has some value in our interpersonal transactions, but won't help us to know the self. In order to realize the self, another kind of discipline and understanding is needed. Two methods have been adopted by the rishis of the Upanishads to arrive at what is not known. They share the assumption that there cannot be many truths. Truth should be one without a second. It cannot be one thing now and later something else. It cannot have a beginning and an end. Furthermore, there cannot be anything or anyone outside truth to be a witness that imparts duality. All these are axiomatic reasonings, mathematically conceived. When you correctly arrive at the conception of theoretical truth by an axiomatic method, what you see cannot be anything other than the only truth. Otherwise, if you presume that is not truth, you are assuming that truth can be many. The first of the true methods of the rishis is to affirm everything. They go on repeating asti, asti, and this, and this. They say, what I see is also truth. What I hear is also truth. What I touch is also truth. What I think is also truth. What I imagine is also truth. What cannot be imagined is also truth. Anything which comes within the frame of awareness is affirmed as also being true. They know that each time they affirm something, they are affirming only a part, which they presume belongs to the whole. This is in anticipation of someone arriving at a notion of the whole. Even before that, they axiomatically believe that there is a whole. From where did that arise? Who revealed it to them? How is the truth of axioms revealed to begin with? We do not know, and yet we experience it. This is called the argument of affirmation. The basis of the argument of affirmation is the revelation which comes in the form of an axiom that does not need to be proved. The other method is to go on denying everything. Neti, neti, not this, not this. Am I this body? Neti. The senses? Neti. The mind? Neti. Anything visible? Neti. Anything inferential? Neti. Anything not visible? Neti. Anything not inferential? Neti. In the fourth quarter of the Mandukya Upanishad, there is a whole set of such denials. After denying everything, you come to a certain mystical silence, in which you cannot further deny anything, and yet you know that you cannot deny the existence of that state. You are enveloped and engulfed by an undeniable experience. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Yajnavalkya uses the method of negation, while in the Chandogya Upanishad, Aruni uses the method of affirmation. With either method, you arrive at the same truth. There are two basic types of people, introverts and extroverts. Introverts tend to be withdrawn, introspective, and contemplative. Extroverts overt, externally minded, and crave action. Clearly, the method of negation is more suitable for introverts, and that of affirmation more suitable for extroverts. In either case, both accept that there is truth to be found. Without ever having experienced the totality of truth, they intuit its existence. Such intuition is not supported by any reasoning. It doesn't come as part of emotional life. It is as if the very truth of being reveals itself through its own beingness. This gives us a clue for our search. At first we may have been disappointed when we were told that pure knowledge does not think, reason or speak. How can we ever approach the unthinkable through thought? If we dismiss the world of our cogitations, the world of our inner reasoning, and the silent way of conversation within ourselves, what tool is left for us for our search? If all these inner voices and dialogues are not coming from the right source, and we drop them, we become very quiet. With a kind of frustrated helplessness, we take our hands off everything. we are surrounded by the din of silence. It may look as if we have lost our ground and are floating in thin air. We may even have to dismiss the very idea of a floating entity. There is no one to float, no one to know. After all this tearing down and destruction, something still prevails. The seeker does not name it. He doesn't even call it an experience, but he knows he is that. It was with that he first spoke and first knew everything, and what he thus understands he cannot limit in any way. He cannot give any distinction, any name, any form to it. It overwhelms him and fills him. For him there is no I, there is only that, the very this which otherwise remains indistinct and indiscernible, has grown to fill everything. Now there is no need for anything to illuminate, because this is the same which remains in the darkness as the only luminous truth. It is self-luminous, an existence which proclaims its own existence, a knowledge which is knowledge through and through, but not knowledge of anything. It is not deep, it is depth itself. It is not valuable, it is value itself. It is not making anyone happy or blissful, because there is no subject-object differentiation to say, now I am blissful. Yet it is devoid of all disturbances. One who arrives at this comprehension is not assailed with any doubt. There is just being. All that you can say is, it is. Even that is wrong to an extent, because it is a kind of judgment. If you can somehow compress thisness and isness into one, and remain in the silence of pure beingness, rid of all the colorations given by the sensory system, the mind, and your expectations and prejudices, that is the only reality. If you are fully merged into that pure state, there is no ideation of the subject as I. Words become useless. One knows the sublimity of height, the oceanic depth, and the boundlessness of infinity. Only after knowing what that is will you be able to look upon this world as a passing show, a shadow without substance. At the same time, once you are fully convinced of that, it is a sheer joy to come and play with the game of Indra. You are a child playing the game called life on the expanse of nothingness. This is only a preliminary entry into the true depth. We have to go a few steps more, and they are given in the next couple of verses. It requires more meditation and contemplation. If you touch it even slightly, it is the greatest wonder you have ever experienced. You are transformed. And the free translation of verse 31 is as follows. Without prior experience, one cannot make inferences. As the self is not a perceptible factor, one cannot infer the existence of any principle postulated as the basis of attributes.